Puerperal pyrexia, a rise of temperature reaching 100.4 degrees Fahrenheit or 38 degrees Celsius or more, measured orally on the two separate occasions at 24 hours apart, excluding first 24 hours within first 10 days following the delivery is called puerperal pyrexia. In some countries, post-abortal fever is also included. Puerperal pyrexia is also called puerperal fever or childbirth fever. It means fever in the first 24 hours after delivery often resolves spontaneously and cannot be explained by an identifiable infection. Causes of puerperal pyrexia. First one is urinary tract infection. Mostly urinary tract infections caused by the multiple catheterization, multiple vaginal examinations, untreated bacteriuria. Then mastitis, nipple trauma from the breastfeeding. Infection like LSCS wound. In this case, the trauma during the delivery or during the cesarean section. Pulmonary infection like atelectasis, it may be caused by the general anesthesia, cigarette smoking, obstructive pulmonary disease. Puerperal sepsis like endometritis, it may be caused by the emergency cesarean section, prolonged membrane rupture, prolonged labor, multiple vaginal examinations. And last one is unknown origin. There are so many causes that may cause the puerperal pyrexia like hemorrhage, maternal conditions like anemia, poor nutrition during the pregnancy, or obesity, diabetes, etc. Today I will discuss about the puerperal sepsis. Puerperal pyrexia, an infection of the genital tract which occurs as a complication of delivery, is termed as puerperal sepsis. In other words, the time from delivery of the placenta through the first few weeks after the delivery, when considerable adjustments occur before return to the pre-pregnant state. Incidence of puerperal sepsis. There had been marked decline in the puerperal sepsis during the past few years due to improved obstetrical care and availability of the wider range of antibiotics that can prevent the infection before it occurs. Causes of puerperal sepsis. Endometritis, inflammation of the endometrium or the inner layer of the uterus. Endomyometrium, infection of both layers, endometrium and myometrium. Then parametritis, the infection or the inflammation of the outer layer of uterus, that is perimetrium. The combination of all is called the pelvic cellulitis. Predisposing factors of puerperal sepsis. First one is damage to the cervicovaginal mucous membrane. The cervicovaginal mucous membrane is damaged even in the normal delivery. Large placental wound surface area. There will be open blood vessels. Then blood clots present at the placental site are excellent media for the growth of bacteria. Antepartum factors. Malnutrition and anemia, preterm labor, preterm rupture of membranes, chronic illness, prolonged rupture of membranes more than 18 hours. Factors like repeated vaginal examinations, frequent vaginal examinations and internal monitoring may actually increase the risk of infection and do more harm than the good. Prolonged rupture of membranes. Prolonged rupture of membranes is a development of the serious infection of the placental tissues called chorioamnionitis, which can be very dangerous for the mother as well as for the baby. Dehydration and ketoacidosis during the labor. The patient with dehydration and diabetes or the ketoacidosis is at the life-threatening condition, and there are more chances for the puerperal sepsis. Then traumatic operative delivery. A forceps delivery can possibly cause the risk of injury for both mother and the baby. Injuries like injuries to the bladder or urethra, uterine rupture, etc., there are more chances of the puerperal sepsis. Next is hemorrhage, retained bits of placenta or membranes, placenta previa, cesarean section delivery also. Microorganisms responsible for the puerperal sepsis. Incidence of puerperal sepsis. There had been marked decline in the puerperal sepsis during the past few years due to improved obstetrical care and availability of the wider range of antibiotics that can prevent the infection before it occurs. Mode of infection. Puerperal sepsis is essentially a wound infection, placental site, lacerations of the genital tract or cesarean section wounds. These are the means of entry for the infection. The puerperal sepsis or the puerperal infection may get infected by the endogenous or the exogenous organisms. Endogenous organisms are present in the genital tract before the delivery, and exogenous organisms, this type of infection is gained from the sources outside the patient, like from the hospital or the hospital staff. Clinical features for puerperal sepsis. Clinical features are local infection, uterine infection, spreading infection. Factors like repeated vaginal examinations, frequent vaginal examinations and internal monitoring may actually increase the risk of uterine infections. Uterine infections may be mild or severe. Under the mild condition, rise in temperature and pulse rate, offensive and copious local discharge, subinvoluted and tender uterus. Then in severe cases, severe infection, acute onset with high grade temperature with chills and trigger, rapid pulse rate, scanty and odorless lochia. Scanty means the lochia in a very small amount. Spreading infection like perimyxitis. Perimyxitis is an inflammation of the perimetrium layer, that is the outer layer of the uterus. Then pelvic peritonitis. Pelvic peritonitis is an inflammation involving the peritoneum surrounding the uterus and the fallopian tubes. General peritonitis. It is an inflammation of the peritoneum layer, the lining of the inner wall of the abdomen that covers the abdominal organs. Thrombophlebitis. It is a postpartum complication which consists of the persistent postpartum fever. It may lead infection to the vein wall. Vein wall, mainly the iliofemoral vein. And then septicemia. Septicemia is a blood poisoning, especially that caused by the bacteria or their toxins. Investigations for the puerperal sepsis. First one is history and clinical examination. History includes antenatal, internatal, postnatal history of any high risk factor for the infection like anemia, prolonged rupture of membranes, prolonged labor are to be taken. Then clinical examination. Clinical examination include general, physical and systemic examination. Abdominal and pelvic examinations are done to note the involution and locate the specific site for the infection. Legs should be examined for the thrombophlebitis or the thrombosis. Next is high vaginal endocervical swab. The high vaginal endocervical swabs for the culture in aerobic and anaerobic media and the sensitivity test for the antibiotics. Then blood examination. Blood examination for the total and the differential cell count, hemoglobin estimation, low platelet count may indicate the septicemia. Ultrasound. Ultrasound is done to detect and find out the retained bits of the conception and to locate the abscess. CT scan and MRI. is needed, especially when the diagnosis is in doubt or there is a pelvic vein thrombosis. Prophylaxis during the antenatal period. For this, the improvement of the nutritional status to raise the HB level of the pregnant women. Then eradication of the septic status like sepsis of the skin, throat, tonsils of the patient. Then intranatal. Intranatal prophylaxis include full surgical asepsis during the delivery or the labor. Then screening for the group B streptococcus in high risk patients. Prophylactic use of antibiotics at the time of cesarean section. It may reduce the incidence of the wound infection like endometritis or UTIs. After that, ceftriaxone 1 gram IV immediate after the cord clamping and second dose after the 8 hours is recommended to exclude the infection. Postnatal prophylaxis. It includes aseptic precautions at least 1 week following the delivery, like early isolation of the suspected cases. Too many visitors are restricted. Sterilized sanitary pads are to be used. Infected babies and mothers should be in the isolated room. Treatment for puerperal sepsis. In general care, isolate the patient, educate fluid and calories should be administered. Then anemia is to be corrected. Progress chart should be maintained. Spreading infection like antibiotics like gentamicin 2 mg per kg IV loading dose followed by the 1.5 mg per kg IV every 8 hours. Ampicillin 1 gram IV every 6 hours. Clindamycin 900 mg IV every 8 hours. Metronidazole 0.5 gram IV 8 hourly. Continue at least 7 days. Then surgical treatment. Postnatal prophylaxis. It includes aseptic precautions at least 1 week following the delivery, like early isolation of the suspected cases. Too many visitors are restricted. Sterilized sanitary pads are to be used. Infected babies and mothers should be in the isolated room. Retained rutin products with a diameter of 3 cm or less may be disregarded or left alone. Otherwise, surgical evacuation after the antibiotic coverage for 24 hours should be done to avoid the risk of septicemia. Infected retained products should be removed as early as possible under the cover of antibiotics. Then septic thrombophlebitis. IV heparin for 7 to 10 days is given to the patient. Pelvic abscess. The pelvic abscess should be drained by the colpotomy under the ultrasound guidance. Wound dehiscence or wound disruption or the splitting of the wound. It means there will be a dehiscence of the episiotomy or the abdominal wound following the cesarean section. It may be due to the scrubbing the wound, debridement of all the necrotic tissues and secondary suture. It means the disruption or splitting of the wound requires secondary closure of the incision in the operating room. Most disruptions manifested on the 5th post-operative day. Mode of infection. Puerperal sepsis is essentially a wound infection, placental site lacerations of the genital tract or cesarean section wounds. These are the means of entry for the infection. The puerperal sepsis or the puerperal infection may get infected by the endogenous or the exogenous organisms. Endogenous organisms are present in the genital tract before the delivery, and exogenous organisms, this type of infection is gained from the sources outside the patient. Then surgical treatment. Okay students, I wish all of you understand this topic pupill sepsis. If you want to ask any question then please ask me. Okay, thank you.